welcome back to another episode of Author Interviews with Jazz and Prose. I'm your host, Sai. Today, we're here with the lovely Nikki Davenport. She's here for her series. Okay, she has a book that she's working on. Up here, we have the Queen of His Heart book, but it's the Crown and Heart series, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, yeah. So, Miss Nikki Davenport, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, Sai. How about you?
I'm well. It's the first week of school for the scholars. So I'm a teacher and it's pretty good so far. I have a large class, like 160.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that I see a day. But I love it. So I'm in the work. Okay. So I love that I get to come home and then talk with authors like yourself about these books. It's a great wind down for me, you know?
Yeah. I work in education too. So
nice.
I am dropping my oldest child off at college for the first time next week. So if I burst into tears, you'll just have to excuse me.
Yes, we love crying here. I love crying, so it's fine. We'll come
cleansing. And I work in education. I've been back to school since July, but my 16-year-old goes back next week. So It is running around like my wallet and my hair are on fire right now with trying to get ready for everything.
Yeah, I get it, but we gotta love it, right? We gotta love it. So I love to start with the cover of the book. So for this one, I guess specifically, okay, and I know you guys can see she has some covers behind her on her screen as well. So I mean, if you want to talk about all of them or either one of them, I'll leave it up to you.
Sure.
Okay.
So when I first got started, and I didn't know where to start with a cover. So I ended up having two covers. And the first one with the couple that you see for International Incident, that is book number 1 in the Crown and Heart series. I wanted it to be unapologetic, black on black love. You know what you are getting. You're getting a black female lead and a black male lead, that there isn't any confusion about what you're getting. I wanted it to be right up there up front. And then it turns out when I started getting a little bit deeper into the marketing, and that is great to have couple forward. You're leading with the tropes that I wasn't leaning into, the trope that's the overarching theme of the series enough, which is that this is an elected monarchy on a fictitious island. So we switched to the crown so that we could lean a little bit more into that element so that that spoke a little bit first. And so we find that the couple covers actually do really well in person. And I think that's because you can see that this couple they're falling for each other. And I like that you can see like the DC skyline in the background, because the book is also a sort of a love letter to DC. I live near DC, about 7 miles. And within the book, I did a lot of research in trying to make sure that I feature places that are Black-owned businesses or gems from Black history that are a little lesser known, so that we could have some places for folks to check out when they come and visit. Even if you live here, maybe you didn't know about some of those things.
I love that. I'm taking notes, guys. I have my notepad and my pen. I love that. You said a lot, and I'm like, okay, where do I, want to ask the next question here? But I love that I love a book that's fiction, but yet you still do research to put some of the realistic things in there. I know, and I'll wait, for some of it, but I also love that you created a fiction island.
Yes.
Okay. And I have questions about that. Okay, but I'll wait until we get in here. But this is a beautiful cover. And speaking of, we'll wait till we get to publishing questions about that. But you mentioned that you found that a book did better in person as opposed to, I'm assuming, like ebooks or maybe.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I'll put a pin and I'll make sure to come back to that question because I think that is amazing insight. Okay. So Nikki Davenport, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into writing.
Okay. Well, I don't think I've ever not been in writing. something that I enjoyed a lot when I was a lot younger, had a vivid imagination, and was encouraged by teachers to go ahead and pursue it. But I fell into the trap that many aspiring creatives fall into, that you think you won't be able to make a living. And I had no interest in being a starving artist. So I allowed myself to sort of be redirected into another field that I love, but it took a long time for me to come back around to writing. And what actually kicked me into high gear for this was breast cancer. I was diagnosed with breast cancer a couple of months into the pandemic shutdown. And we were quarantined here, two teens, an elderly cat, my husband, a tiny condo that could be its own reality show right there.
Wow.
But chemo was the only place that I had like some peace and quiet. It's a long way to go to get it. But while I was there, I started thinking about, how do I want to celebrate this when it's over? And I started thinking about it. And from the framework with Kids at Hope, you start thinking about time traveling, where how you're going to celebrate. When you start thinking about that, your brain starts orienting your behavior, your thoughts, your cognitions, everything towards that goal as though it's already happened.
Yes.
So that's what I started doing. I started writing it down, and I said, you know what? If I can beat cancer, there is nothing else that I have to fear. So that's what I did. I picked a date to publish, and then I quickly tried to backpedal because I was thinking, nobody's going to want to read my little book. And then the more wiser, older part of me, that is not the sensitive 14-year-old girl who was, here's my first novel, and it got trashed. That this was somebody who was like, okay, so I know that what I write is not going to be for everybody. And unfortunately, I think that's a trap that a lot of newer authors fall into, is that they want to have broad appeal. And there's nothing wrong with that. You want to be able to earn a living. But it's not, what you write is specialized. It's not for everybody. And there's somebody out there that needs your story specifically. Yeah. So once unfortunately, I'm 5 years healthy with no signs of disease, which is
glad to hear that. Yeah.
Thank you. But I kept up the writing, and it was pouring out of me almost compulsively that I had the main character in my first two books. They are a duology, The Queen's Desire duet. She's a breast cancer survivor herself. So I think clearly I was pouring in my fear and my anxiety and my hopes and dreams for what was going to come out on the other side of this journey, and poured it into her. And I had so much fun creating this fictitious island and all the things that go with that. And then I never looked back. Next thing you know, I told myself I was going to write shorter for book 3, which ended up being longer than the first two. But sometimes, like J.B. Vample says, sometimes you just need more time to tell the story instead of trying to cut it and squeeze it. Sometimes it just needs time to unfold.
I love that. Oh my God, you spoke directly to me when you said that. I say all the time that I have a book I've been working on for about 10 years.
10 years, I heard.
I'm like, I knew it. I just needed more time. But it's really, it's time. And that's something we'll talk about that when we get into like your process and like all of that. But well, I'm happy to hear that you're it's been 5 years for you. You're good. So that's amazing. And I know that a lot of people can relate. Okay. And I was just thinking about that the other day. I'm like, the time that I need, like, I don't know when I would have time. It would be unfortunate. Like if something happened, that would probably be the only time that I would actually be able to sit there and actually write to the lengths that I would want to write. So it's just ironic that you said that. But, I think I'm a glass half full kind of person, always finding the silver lining, the positives in this. That's what I've learned with life, is that it's up and down, and it's all about your mindset. And I love how you talked about thinking, because your brain can't realize the difference between something that's fake and something that's real. It's all about just what you're putting in it, right? So I loved that you did that to hype yourself up to, get these books done. That is amazing. I love that. I'm kind of big into psychology. I love reading those kinds of books and things like that. So I love that. And well, we're glad that you have these books. So it's a total of 3 right now, right? Or 2, and you're working on the 3rd one.
There's actually a 4th one in there. There's a novella that's set in the same universe that takes place in between books 1 and 2. So it's and it's a complete story on its own, and it features an older couple, and my favorite trope of enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
So yes, so we're on book 4.
Okay, I'm learning a lot about, I don't want y'all to think that I'm an expert in all of this stuff. I really, like, I know my genre and what I like, but when it comes to romance, I'm learning about the enemies to lovers and all that kind of stuff. So it's exciting to be introduced to that, that kind of stuff as a writer, as the person writing it, right? And so when it comes to the book, so let's pick one book right now just to kind of go into when it comes to because I want to ask more so like the setting and you creating this island and all this kind of stuff. So which book can we focus on right now for the readers so I can ask some questions about that?
Let's go ahead with A Matter of Taste. That's the novella that takes place. So it starts off, it spans a few years. So it starts around the time where the queen is just coming to power. So, and then we skip ahead a little bit. But since that one takes place on the island, whereas one takes place in DC, that might be a good place to start.
Okay, and I saw you put in there, think Wakanda and Bridgerton meets together. Okay, so now we're think. Okay, I love that. So, okay, well, tell us about the book. What is the book about? Okay.
Yeah, so Matter of Taste is a short novella with enemies to lovers, where we have a literal collision between a chef with a dark past, and then we have a stylist who this is her first big gig that she's been tasked with styling the queen for the big swearing in ceremony. So big deal, right? And these two literally crash into each other, destroy each other's masterpieces. That he had a special cake for the swearing in, and she had the fabulous outfit that was one of a kind, because when she got hired for this, she poured all of her energy into this. So these two have gotten off on quite the wrong foot. And then they get, a couple of years later, they keep their distance from all the staff events when things happen. So they're just sort of hating each other from a distance. But then they get locked in the queen's office for a weekend during a heat wave. So this is a Caribbean island, mind you. And it's a heat wave. They have no electricity, no AC, and no bed. So there's the one bed trope. And then I put a little twist on that with the no bed trope. And find out what happens when you are just stripped from all of your comforts, all of the things that you use for armor without even intending to sometimes. And we learn a lot about the island and the culture from this couple. And once they are released from their their time together for a weekend, where there's a lot of funny and serious things that happen during that time. And then they get together outside, but they have a little bit of miscommunication because like any relationship, romantic relationships are not typically just smooth sailing all the time. That's kind of boring in real life and in literary world.
Yeah.
So, and of course, we've got the happily ever after, because it is a romance, and that's you better have a happy ever after or a happily for now, to fulfill that genre expectation. So that's where that book is.
I love that, and I'm already intrigued. Okay, I can't wait to read it. So tell us about why an island? Why did you want to create an Caribbean, fictitious Caribbean island specifically?
So what got me thinking about that, and it's an island that has never been colonized. So this is a place that was founded by escaped enslaved people, freedmen. Um, these are peoples who were descended from the West African cultures, and thinking of this as a place where they weren't interrupted, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So they were able to have their own culture, their own heritage, their own language, their own everything based on what they had to offer. And they created a matrilineal society. And my thinking behind it was I'm always someone who likes to try and go left of what's expected. So
Yeah.
if somebody's thinking, okay, an authority figure, it's a doctor, they might default to thinking it's a man. I'm definitely writing it as a woman because I want to constantly surprise people, just little ways, big ways. And I wanted this to represent sort of like an elevated, enhanced version of the United States, where there isn't the same kind of history, the same heaviness that comes with having been a country that dealt with enslaved people. So I wanted this to be a standalone place that was almost like a utopia. When I think of Wakanda, I'm like, man, I want to go to Wakanda so bad. It sounds fabulous. And then I wanted to have an elected monarchy because I was finding that a lot of times as Black women, we were locked out of the royalty trope unless it was involving an interracial relationship. And it's not exclusive, but a lot of the times that's what it was. And I was like, you know what if we just didn't even have to have that piece to it? What if it was just it's a monarchy? I decided I wanted it to be a little bit more interesting than oh my goodness, a hereditary monarchy. Oh man, my brain just went out of me. But basically, it's someone that's elected, and the queen, who is she is the focus, her love story of books 1 and 2. She was elected at age 26, so that's pretty young to be running anything.
Yeah.
So part of the whole series is seeing her mature and grow into the role as a good queen, because when we meet her, she's a good queen, but she didn't start out, she was like anybody new on the job. You got a new boss in a high profile position, they're making mistakes, and that's part of the fun.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. And it sounds like you've done a lot of research to pull all this together. Wow, I'm just, in my head, I'm thinking, and I'm sure there are many books out there like that. I know I'm reading right now, Here Comes the Sun by Nicole Dennis Ben, and her, she created I think it's a city in Jamaica that's not real, but she created it. I think it's called Riverbend in the book. And I was like, oh my God, thinking about Harry Potter, because that's like when I think of like the oh Lord, Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling, I'm about to say, what's her name? When she wrote Harry Potter, I always think of like, oh my God, creating that world was probably a lot for her, but it's fun at the same time. So for you, when you were creating, and I want to pronounce it correctly, is it Laitua? Laitua. Okay, Laitua. When you, first of all, first question, how did you come up with that name?
I actually don't remember. I was trying to think about this, and it just sort of was there. I don't remember like trying to think of what is the name for this island. I think it was just sort of there in my mind somewhere.
All right, I like that, Laitua. Okay, I like that. When it came to the setting, as far as like describing what it looks like, when you close your eyes, do you actually see Laitua? Like, do you see it, or like how does that work for you?
Yes. So I was fortunate enough to go on a couple of cruises to Bermuda. And so it was sort of loosely based on that kind of setup where it's, you know, a long narrow island, except for the colonial piece.
Yes.
That was very important. But
Hmm.
when I close my eyes, I think of like a paradise where there is, again, think Wakanda, where
Yeah.
you've got folks who are successful. They have a healthcare system that
Yeah.
works. They have a higher education system that works. All of the things that we would like to have, or you would
Mm.
expect to have in a first world country, uh, without any of the baggage. And
Yeah.
that's not to say that it's a utopia, because it's
It
like
still
any
has.
other country. It's going to have its own issues,
Yeah.
and they've got enemies like any place else.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I worked very hard to create a place that feels real, where you're like, that sounds like Caribbean culture, or oh, I that sounds like something that could really happen.
Hmm.
And in the book that I most recently wrote, that's book 3 in the series, and that's called "In the Queen's Service," and that's the captain of the Queen's Elite Guard falling in love.
Oh.
And I really desperately wanted this to be a place where you can smell the scents, that you can hear the ocean, that you can be immersed in it. And I had a blast with things like wedding
Hmm.
ceremony, because I was like, oh, you made it up. You can do whatever the heck you want with this. And
Yeah.
I had a great time basing it on West African cultures and
Yeah.
putting my own twist on it so that it feels familiar and
Hmm.
different at the same time.
Right. I love that. So it's based on mostly like West African culture.
Yes.
Because like you said, the people on the island are people who were enslaved or
Yes. They were
okay,
either escaped enslaved people, they
enslaved.
might have been freed, or
Okay.
they were never enslaved at all.
Okay. And then what is the time period? Is it like current day or is it
Current
like
day.
okay, current day. So it's been generations since the
Yes,
enslaved. Okay. All
exactly.
right. Got it. I love that. Do is there when you were coming up with the dialogue, is it how does that work for you in this book? Is it
So another thing that I had a lot of fun with. So my thinking was that when you are from the same place as someone, you're going to talk differently about where you're from than somebody who's from another country.
right?
So that was the shorthand that I used to introduce Litua and some of the cultural quirks that are there. And it was interesting with the dialogue, with trying to maintain a queen's voice
Mhm.
and an American architect. This is in book 1, International Incident. And part of it was thinking about, okay, what would somebody who was raised in a really formal education system, how would they speak? But she probably wouldn't use a lot of contractions.
Mhm.
And so I wanted her voice to sound very distinct from everyone else's. And part of that was thinking, okay, how would they abbreviate this on the islands? How would they refer to things? And trying to
Mhm.
keep it all straight in my head. For a really simple example was that in my mind, she wouldn't call a couch. She'd call it a sofa. But the other folks who are American would probably call it a couch. And even though it's told in third person, how she's thinking about things, I want it to reflect her upbringing and her homeland and her interpretation of things, even though it's told in third person, so that you can switch and go back to the Americans telling the story, or seeing the story through the Americans' eyes, and having it feel completely different, because it is different.
Yes.
Um, but I love banter and I love dialogue, and it was a lot of fun to have somebody trying to hide their identity and
Mhm.
hide a really great identity that she
Yeah.
and this is the queen, who is mistaken for her assistant by this really great American architect from DC. And she's been, for the last 6 years that she's been the queen, nobody has been genuine with her, genuinely interested, because they're like, oh great, I want to get with the queen for all the things that come with
Yes.
royalty. And so she has a chance to really be herself. And
Mhm.
it's been such a long time that she doesn't even really know how to be herself and just sort of relax into that. And her coming into her own with that and realizing that, yes, she is enough just as she is for someone to like, be interested and fall in love with, that it doesn't have to be all the trappings of wealth or royalty. And that comes, a lot of that comes out in the dialogue and the story that she tells herself. That's my social work background coming out. And how she interprets some of the things that happen around her. And I want to go back to something that you said, what we're talking about, the heaviness of the history of the United States. That was important to me to not avoid, but to not have it be the centerpiece, that this is not a story about suffering or like they're happy in spite of having had this institutionalized history. And they do talk about things like that, like how is American history taught in schools in Litua? What is their worldview on things? How does society just function there? And they don't always agree on how these things should be done. And because she's coming from it as the head of a nation, that he doesn't know that, when he doesn't agree with her and has some really antiquated views about a monarchy, she's in this position where she's sort of having to defend herself by while pretending to be somebody else. And the mental gymnastics that she has to go through, trying to be herself and to defend her employer, if you will, has been a lot of fun.
It sounds like you have done a lot of research, and I say it all the time, guys, writing is easy for everyone except for writers. The detail that you have had to put in here is a lot. And I know, how did you feel when you were done with the manuscript?
Terrified. I felt terrified because as long as it was a work in progress, you know, I'm still working on it. I'm working on it. But then when you get to the end, you know, you sort of expect some sort of results like a book. So I was terrified, but I had done a lot of trying to learn from the wisdom of others, that because I didn't quit my day job to become a full-time writer. So I was very conservative and very cautious about like what tools I invested in, or what trainings, or what did I need to put into this book to make it the best that it could possibly be. And when self-publishing came along and it was the leveler, the field leveler, we're never going back, down with gatekeepers. On the other side is that anybody could publish anything. And I applaud anybody who has the guts to put their stuff out there. And at the same time, I knew that there were standards that I needed to meet for myself, which means things like professional editors, and they don't work for free. So trying to figure out, how am I going to, okay, I'm not going to be a starving artist. I don't want somebody else to starve to support my dream. So I've got to figure out how I'm going to be able to pay a decent wage for good quality work. And I had to get a second job to do it, to pay for the editing for the first book. And I was fortunate to have good guidance from others in the writing community, to where I was able to avoid a lot of financial traps that new authors fall into. And I was such a skinflint when it came to buying anything. Like, I'm usually someone on Amazon, I'm reading like 50 million reviews before I decide to buy a toothbrush. And it's so I wanted to make sure that again, what I write is not for everybody, and I know that, but I don't want somebody to be able to say, oh, her grammar was awful. Oh, it was full of typos. No, that takes away from things. It's worth it to invest that time. And by the time I finished writing it, I had come out as a writer to family and friends. I mean, my immediate family knew, but I kept it to myself for a long time until I was emotionally ready to be able to deal with that your book is not for everybody, that people will have opinions about what you write and what they think you should do because they're all experts, right? So I had a real moment of terror.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It lasted a little bit, but I had already decided on the release date. And
Mhm,
that's something, suspense dates work very well for me in all
mhm.
areas of my life. I'm like, whoop, you put it out there. You already told them it's going to be on this date. So
Yeah,
you better work hard and make it happen. Uh,
yeah,
and so I was like, okay, just take a deep breath and hit submit.
yeah, yeah. That's, I can imagine. So I've written books, but the book that I've been working on for a long time is more so
Mhm.
plot, it's taking a long time because it's a lot, and I'm a perfectionist. So I'm like, what was your time frame? How long did it take you to write? Um, what's not this one right here, but the one you said with the
The
people on
first
the island?
one was International Incident. So I started writing in, I think, maybe around July of 2020, and it was released on November 4th of 2023.
Okay.
So, um, and in that time, I wasn't just writing,
Yeah.
because you're still fighting
Hmm.
cancer
Yeah.
and raising children and trying to keep a job, and
Yeah.
that's part of what takes so long in the process. I
Mhm.
There have been times I've doubted my own sanity with this. I'm like,
Yeah.
why in my spare time would I decide to write a 9-book series? Uh,
Yeah.
but oh, I could not do it.
Yeah.
This is where my heart is called, and
Mhm.
so it took about, and then after that, the book 2 came out the following year in July. So, well,
Okay.
the series, although it's 9 books and they're all at varying stages of completion, some, like the one I just finished, has 103,000 words, and some have like 15,000 words. But I love interconnected stories. That is one of the things I just adore. So, with creating this place and this monarchy, uh, when I change something in one book, I've got to sometimes remember, okay, I got to put that back in the other
Mhm.
book. So, I guess I'm kind of writing 9 books simultaneously, even
Okay,
though
I was gonna ask
focusing.
that. Okay, yeah. And what does that look like visually? Do you have like a storyboard where you have like logistically, what does that look like? You have like 9 separate manuscripts and you
Yes.
okay. All right.
So I have a chock full computer with Scrivener with my projects. And so each book, each couple has
Yeah.
their own file, of course, and their own like backup information file. Things that may not necessarily make it into the book, but are important background information.
Hmm.
So I don't necessarily storyboard it, but
Hmm.
in my mind, I've got it mapped out to where
Yeah.
I can sort of put my finger on the pulse of, okay, well, when this is happening in this book, what was going on with the other couple? Oh, that's right, they separated. So make sure you mention that and you drop that breadcrumb in this book so that you've laid the foundation for it to be in 2 books from now. And it's
Yeah.
a challenge, and I love it. It's like the biggest game of Tetris,
Hmm. Yeah.
and it can. I think like every author, I have gotten to the point where you're so fed up with your work in progress, you're ready to pitch your laptop across the room.
Hmm.
That's when I know it's time to step away for
Yeah.
a minute. But I fall in love with each couple. And that's one of the things that I love about the romance genre. And I'm someone who believes that every story can be enhanced and improved by adding a romantic subplot. uh,
Yeah.
and the thing about romance is that it doesn't happen in a vacuum. You have your colleagues, your family, your friends, your neighbors, your everything. And while you're busy falling in love, life is still going on.
Yes.
Uh, and I mean, when I'm about to celebrate my 22nd wedding anniversary, the day we're dropping the kid off at college, also, um,
Oh.
I remember when we went out after our first couple of dates, I was on the bus in Washington, D.C., and I broke out in song
Oh.
like a Disney movie. I was so happy and sappy and in love. And,
Yeah.
nobody joined in like
Yes.
in the Disney movies. I'm surprised I didn't get like the side eye, but that's how happy I was on the boat with
Yeah.
a friend. We were going to, I think we were going to a happy hour or something like that.
Yeah.
And she was like, are you for real? I was like, I know, he's just so wonderful. But you still have friendships happening and work
Yeah.
and all those other things in your life. It just doesn't stop because you are having a fantastic romance.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I love that, your the inspiration and the things you have felt in your real life, you're pouring that into your characters, and that's a great. I love that so much. When it comes to your readers, how have they responded to your series?
Overwhelmingly positively. One of the, I got a note from a reader that was really disappointed because she couldn't find Litua to go there. And I was like, that's the best compliment you could ever have given me. But I've had lots of feedback about how refreshing it is to have an all Black universe and to have that thread of Black excellence. It's just, it's not something that's exceptional.
Mm-hmm.
This is just how it is. These
Yeah.
folks are fabulous, and there's no apology. There's no additional explanation needed for it.
Mm-hmm.
They're just, it's part of what makes them who they are. And I've had folks say that they thought it was funny in places, and I don't write rom-com, and there's a danger in trying to be funny. I think that's when things go way off the rails. But sometimes humor crops up in completely inappropriate places, and that is so real life. There have been things that I'm like, I would absolutely myself blurt out something inappropriate at the wrong time. But I've been told that my characters are relatable, and that I've done a really good job with drawing the landscape with Litua, and even with showing the Washington, D.C. area with what life is like here, that realism and yet that fantasy escapism are married together at the same time, to where we have men who are strong, successful, worship the ground that their women walk on, and they work on it too. But that they're not afraid to show that and share it. And with having Litua be a matrilineal society, I was thinking that it's going to be very different how they think about things like child rearing or what dating is like. And I've gotten some feedback about being based in DC, but how folks are wanting to come visit. I've had folks, I had a reader who was upset that they couldn't go to Litua because they didn't realize that it was not a real place. I wish that it was, because I'd be the first one on that plane. But I also learned with writing a cliffhanger, which I never want to do again, people, when they like what you've done, they are very, I don't want to say impatient. That's not quite the word. They're always looking forward to, how are you going to resolve this? Is there anything you can tell me about it? And people who are in my real life world here are like, so how's book 2 coming? When? So they will, folks are tend to get anxious, and they're supportive, and they want to know how they can help, or like if anything's in the way that's keeping me from writing. And sometimes it was just time that, unfortunately, I don't have extra hours in the day. I wish I had a time turner. We were talking about Harry Potter. I wish I had a time turner. But I just, because I'm not a fast writer, so I have to take my time. I will make mistakes, and I won't be satisfied with the product that I put out if I rush through it to try and meet an arbitrary deadline. And in fact, I actually had to push back the publication deadline for the book that I'm working on now. We had a family crisis that took every brain cell. The muse was gone. She was out of here while I was dealing with that, and focused on family where it was supposed to be. And I hate disappointing folks, and folks who have been supportive of my writing journey. But I had been very transparent with my newsletter subscribers that, hey, I'm going through something at the moment, and the outpouring of support uh, from folks who don't know me personally, but were so
Mhm.
incredibly kind and empathetic and just supportive. And they're like, no, we'll pre-order it whenever you put the new one up. It's fine.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. Yeah, people
Yeah.
are, they have their favorite characters. They want to know more about, well, when is this character getting their story? I'm like, it's coming. It's coming. I promise. It's a little further down in the series, but that's
Yeah.
always fun hearing about uh, who readers are drawn to, because
Yeah.
it's the whole gamut, the whole cast, even my villain.
Yeah.
People are well. I'm a big fan of having a good villain, because you I forgot who said it, but something about like the hero's only as good as the villain. And
Yeah.
you want to have a villain that's worthy, a worthy adversary. So I had a lot of fun creating a female villain, and again trying to go with what is not expected. So
Mhm.
it's like, okay, villain, you might think automatically, man, nope, I got a really smart lady.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I love that in fiction writing, there's just so many angles you can go into. I mean, and it's kind of like what's those, I'm not really into Marvel, but in Marvel, like how, and the reason the why is because it's like, okay, I gotta go all the way back to the beginning, because like you said, they're all intertwined, and I think that's
Yes.
that's why their fans are like, oh my god, like they're, you can't tell them anything. So I
Yeah.
love, yeah, yeah. So do you have, I would say, a big lesson or something that you learned from in your writing experience now that you've written multiple books, like, oh, I gotta remember never to do this again?
Oh,
Do you have something like that?
sure. I'd say we can be our own worst enemy with self-doubt.
Yeah.
And as women in the States, we're kind of socialized to
Mhm.
downplay our strengths because we don't want to seem unladylike, or we don't want to boast, or we don't want to, all those other things, those expectations that are set upon us. Don't dim your inspiration or your light for anything or anybody. No trend, no, every editor might not be the best fit for you, but you in your heart as the author, you know what you're supposed to be writing, and you will know when you're not doing it.
Yeah.
Stay true to that vision that you have for yourself. Beta readers, regular readers, editors, they're making suggestions, and a good editor and beta reader and your team, you for
Mhm.
your books, the folks that
Yeah.
you have supporting you, if you've done it right, they want you to be successful. They want to help your writing be stronger, but they're still human and they don't know everything. And
Mhm.
sometimes the suggestions that they might make, sure, it might be the right structural thing to do, or it might be the right grammatical thing to do. But if it's something that you feel strongly about, fight for it. If you're an indie author, you have the final say so. It's different with traditional publishing, but that's one of the reasons I went indie. I wanted to have the final say so, that you can think about what they have suggested and you might decide against it. That doesn't mean that you think they're a terrible editor or that they think you're a terrible writer.
Yeah.
It's a partnership. And because I also do author services as well, I love being a part of an author's journey with that, to
Yeah.
where you want to, it's a long relationship. Well, it
Mhm.
could be with an editor. If you find the right fit and you take the time to do that, that would be another pearl of wisdom too. Take the time to find the right fit for you. That
Absolutely.
just
Yeah.
because somebody you can afford their rates and
Mhm.
they're available, and maybe they're very experienced, have worked with a lot of top names, and they could still not be a good fit for you.
Yeah.
Don't endure bad a bad fit. And this is one of those gifts that cancer gave me, that
Mhm.
I just don't have time or energy to deal with nonsense anymore.
Yeah.
So if something is not working for me, depends on the context, of course, but
Mhm.
I'm not going to spend but so much energy with
Yeah.
trying to fix it. There may not be any need. So when I was looking for even a beta reader before I was doing editing, I went to Fiverr, which I know opinions are mixed about Fiverr, and I fortunately have had good luck.
Yeah.
But I had good luck because I took my time,
Mhm.
and like I hired folks for
Yes.
sample reads, because it's not just about can they read it, can they give feedback in a way that I need to receive it, in a way that feels like they are affirming what I'm doing instead of like tearing it to shreds. Or it's
Yeah.
not that I can't take criticism, because that's part of the process, but the one of the big reasons I'm not pursuing traditional publishing is because I suffer from depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
I cannot wear I've been rejected 100 times as a badge of honor. I don't think my mental health would hold up to that.
Yeah.
So I very purposefully said that's not for me, and
Mhm.
that's okay. It
Mhm.
might be the best thing for someone else, and I support that. I
Yeah.
think every author should follow the path that they feel best about, not what
Right.
somebody else thinks. And it can be tricky because there are folks out there that are trying very hard to fleece and prey upon
Mhm.
uh, a new author's desire to be legitimate, and they butter them up and then they fleece them out of thousands of dollars. So
Yeah.
that's where I kept my ear to the ground. I asked lots of questions whenever I went to like summits or anything, and I had a chance to speak to an author that was further along in the journey than I was. The
Mhm.
question I always ask is, what do you wish you'd known at the beginning? And I've gotten some truly great advice,
Yeah.
and I've learned a lot from other people's mistakes, so
Yeah.
that when the charlatans, the flim flam man comes along and tries to butter me up with things, I'm not falling for it.
Yeah.
That's something I wish. You are enough. You'll get, like any creative endeavor, you'll get better at it the more you do it.
Yes.
And the book that you see on the shelf at Barnes and Noble, that
Mhm.
shiny new #1 New York Times bestseller, that did not start out like that. I guarantee that first draft probably didn't look
Yeah.
anything like that. There's a lot that goes into behind the scenes,
A
and
lot.
we've been just sort of, I don't want to say we've been misled to
Mhm.
think that, you just sit down at a typewriter, you bang out a bestseller on your first draft, and if you don't, there's something wrong with you. You must be a terrible writer. Like,
Yeah.
no, there's
The process.
years. Exactly. It's a process. And it's so detrimental to like your
Mhm.
creative health, your mental health, your all of that, and thinking that you have to have the perfect first draft.
Yeah.
And folks end up letting great be the enemy of good. Is that right? I always mix my metaphors with
I think that's the first time I heard that, but I like that. Yeah, I like that. You said a lot. That was that. So I'm glad it's recorded, so y'all can stop and pause, think about it, because that's all great advice. I think that is all. Which that was our next slide, but you covered a lot of stuff in there. For new authors, time for trivia right now. Okay,
okay.
going to be our trivia time right now, guys. So this is author edition of Would You Rather. Okay. So, Mrs. Davenport, we're gonna have you pick a number from 1 to 4.
Well, you said that everybody picks three, so I'm not going to pick three.
You can pick whatever
Um,
you want, but
I'm going to pick one. I'll pick one.
yeah, 1. Okay, wow, that's people rarely pick that. Okay, so it says, would you rather host your own master class or teach a semester-long college course? And let's talk about, I guess, with writing or with anything really. I mean, whatever you would want to teach. So,
That's a close one, but I would actually say the college course,
okay,
because then you can, with the master class, you're probably going to plant the seeds, but you may not see them sprout and grow.
yeah,
Um,
that's true.
but with a semester, or if you're meeting weekly or maybe like once or twice a week, you're getting more immediate feedback.
Yeah.
You're getting more support
Yeah.
longer term, and that might help guide somebody's journey. And like I coach in my day job. I coach a pretty big team actually, and
Mhm.
part of what I say is when I'm asking the people that I coach, what are you looking for
Mhm.
1 year from now, 5 years from now? Because my job is not to keep you, it's to develop you.
Yeah.
It's to find out what connections can I make
Mhm.
based on my experience and who I know to help you get where you're trying to go,
Right.
because we're all trying to prosper together. And it, like I said, with the opening the
Mhm.
door, I'm coming through the door. I want other folks to come through with me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help them on their way.
Right.
And I feel like I'd probably have maybe more of a chance to do that
Right.
and answer questions and help allay fears, and with more time than I would in a masterclass. But a masterclass could be a lot of fun too. You get
It can
people
be.
fired up.
Yeah. So what is next for you, Nikki? What's next?
So, not quite halfway through with the Crown and Heart series.
Okay.
So, always working on that. I'll be doing a couple of in-person events coming up, including one here in DC called the Chocolate City Literary
Mhm.
Festival, and
Nice.
that's in April of next year.
Okay.
And trying to keep my characters from keeping me up at night, because they do tend to yap in my ear. They have very strong opinions about
Yeah.
what should be said and done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I can totally relate to that. And I love we didn't even get to talk that much about character creation, but that is one of my favorite things to develop in writing are the characters. I mean, you did say you had your character profiles and things like that. But I am one of those people that, if you develop the characters enough, they will pretty much, like you said, keep you up at night telling you, hey, this is happening, you need to go capture it.
Yes, it's people who are not creatives do not understand that. They think that they're like, you must be making that up. I'm like, no,
It
I'm
happens.
really
No, it
not.
really happens. It happens. I'm like driving and I hear a song and I'm like, okay, this is what you call his playlist. This is his song. Like I think of this person when I'm. So yeah, no, for people who their brains don't work like that, it's really a real thing. Okay, these people, we talked about that earlier because our brains can't tell like what's real from what.
That's
So
right.
you really think that, yeah. So it's really fun times, never bored, never bored.
Yes.
Well, well, first off, I'm sorry, where can people find the books?
Oh, they can. I just recently went wide for folks who are not authors. That means that you're available in multiple outlets, not just exclusive to one. And that
Okay.
was kind of a big deal. But you can find me at NikkiDavenport.com, where I have links to all of my books, pre-orders coming up, appearances, all kinds of things. You can find me on social media. I don't inherently enjoy social media, and I have to do it authentically. And I know that's not the best marketing advice, but and again, me being true to myself is that I can only interact authentically. So I'm not on there like 3 times a day like I probably should be, but you can find me on where am I? TikTok and Instagram and Facebook with
Okay.
author Nikki Davenport.
Okay, I love that. See, I need to step it up because you said you don't like social media like that, and I it's okay, but I need to get back on TikTok. I heard it's really good for marketing, but I'm just like, it's so distracting on TikTok for me. Instagram, I'm doing okay. I can handle Instagram.
Yeah,
I can
and
handle it, but
it's
TikTok
like
is just like
it's a I don't want to say a pit. It's more like a oh goodness, I'm blanking on it.
a rabbit
It's
hole.
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah,
It is a rabbit
exactly.
hole. And like
Precisely.
I love encouraging other authors and
Mhm.
interacting with them. And oh goodness, here comes my one of the literary cats.
Okay.
Watch out. Okay.
Aww.
This is Mosley.
Hey, little kitty. I love
Uh,
cats. I've always wanted a cat, but everybody's like, don't get a cat. But oh my God.
So this is,
Aw.
I have two literary cats. I've got a Maya and a Mosley.
Oh,
And Mosley has decided he's had enough of me being the
okay. I
parent.
get it. We're gonna let mommy go. Okay.
Well, I had the nerve to be away for a couple of days. So
Okay.
I'm still paying for
Yes.
my crimes.
Oh my God. See, this is my sign to get a cat, guys. All my students are like, Miss Rob, just get a cat. Get a cat. Just get the cat.
Yeah, I love having these guys.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
And I know he's doing this on purpose, of course.
No, he wanted to make his debut. We get it. We love cats here. Well, listen, Nikki Davenport, we thank you so much
Thank you
for
having me.
sharing your time with us here to let us know about your Crown and Heart book series. Okay, guys, you can check it out on her website. You said nikkidavenport.com.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, absolutely. You're welcome back anytime, you and your baby cat. Well, we thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Author Interviews with Jazz and Prose, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.